Well, good afternoon. It's your buddy Ryan here, coming to you from the Moondance Homestead in the windswept mountains of Central California. And I am very excited to share my concrete raised bed here with you today. As you can see, it's a fairly sizable bed. I want to say it took me about 145 cinder blocks to complete. It's about 50 feet long by about 3.5 feet wide. And it has just been phenomenal for me this year. But it didn't come easy. I didn't start out at this point. It's actually started as a failure that I have salvaged with the help of my family, of course. Last year, this actually began its life as a Hügelkultur mound. And being sort of a novice in that area myself, I decided, yeah, let's give it a try. Let's do this Hügelkultur stuff everyone's talking about. And so we built it up. We started with a core of logs that I had cut down on our property, then sticks and, straw, manure, compost, all that good stuff. We have tons of rabbits here, so we get great manure off of them, chickens, quails, you name it. We added all of our various manures to this and made what looked like a pretty nice Hügelkultur mound. Basically to specifications from all the instructions I read, but those instructions are not for places like the windswept mountains of Central California on the Moondance Homestead. I am not kidding about the windswept part here. You can see it blowing right now, and this is about as mild as it gets. It's fairly constant. So when you have a hill made effectively out of sticks and dry grass and compost, and the wind blows on it. It actually ended up kind of going right through it. And being that it's a mound shape rather than something enclosed, like this nice concrete bed, all the soil was basically exposed to the area, more exposed surface area, and it completely dehydrated really, really quickly. I spent a lot of time watering the Hugo mound. I spent a lot of time lamenting the fact that rabbits could just climb up the side and eat the lettuce, and did try some various ways to keep them out. Nothing was really successful. And finally, once things finally got a foothold, midsummer, my neighbor's horses got out and they ate all of my garden, which made me pretty angry, I have to be honest. But rather than causing a big fuss, I replanted and thought it was just a learning experience. And, everything was fine. My neighbors fixed their fence so it wouldn't happen again. But I didn't realize that living around here, they allow sheep to come in and graze pretty much whatever they want, as long as it's an unoccupied piece of property, and call it fire prevention. Now that's really great for those properties over there, but as for me, I'm adjacent to it. I woke up with 100 sheep in my front lawn that had completely destroyed my garden. When they decided to move in, Shepherd was literally allowing his dog to use the facilities, so to speak, right here in my front yard. And obviously in years past, they'd grazed through here because our land was unoccupied. So we had some not so friendly words about that. And I decided we need to prevent this in the future. So all of that said, last year was a really hard year for this raised bed, but now things are looking really nice. And I'll talk to you about why I did what I did here. So of course, I finally built a fence with a gate in my front yard that has a pretty tersely worded no trespassing sign. You do have to protect what's yours, unfortunately. People don't always do the right thing on their own. And of course, I built this concrete raised bed, so I took 145 of these cinder blocks or concrete blocks, and I literally just stacked them around the old Hugo mound and then leveled it out. Filled it back in with more soil from my compost bins, homemade potting soil basically, and mulched it with some straw. And of course, you can probably see cardboard shreds, which I'm a huge fan of taking your basic brown boxes with no gloss on them, shredding them and using that as mulch and animal bedding. It works really well. My oyster mushroom spawn that I keep in the soil breaks those down, turns them into mushrooms for us. So now this entire bed is full of mushroom spawn that breaks down the cardboard, full of plants, and we got these nice walls here to protect us from the wind. Between all of that, all the mulch, the soil I've built here in this year, I maybe only have to water this bed once a week, so the moisture issue is taken care of. In terms of the rabbits and the deer and the horses and everyone else that wants to get in, I made these PVC hoops, very lovely, with 1/2-inch rebar that I pounded into the ground, about 2 feet of it, would slip the 1/2-inch PVC pipe over it, bend it to the other side where I have more rebar, and constructed these hoops. That allowed me to take these really basic clips and stretch some deer netting over this whole bed. So now I'm able to do things like have garlic that the squirrels don't like to dig around in, or don't get to dig around in. They're not supposed to enjoy garlic, but the ground squirrels here in the mountains really, really like to dig at my garlic, nibble at the roots, and get that moisture midsummer when it's real dry here. We've also got going on in here some miner's spinach, as well as some kale, Egyptian walking onions. We have our brassica bed here, got all kinds of broccoli, cabbages, and kale, just kind of all living together. I'm going to let them develop. I do like to eat the root or the leaves of all of them, so I'm basically using them all as cooking greens. Got some salad here between oak leaf and mesclun mix. More Egyptian walking onions, one of my favorite plants. You can see they're beginning to grow some bulblets, and those will grow into more Egyptian walking onions. You can see that one sprouting out already. Over here, of course, I do have some strawberry plants getting started. This whole section will be my strawberry bed, probably for the next 2 years. And then I'll propagate it and move it somewhere else on the property. And of course, my favorite plant in the garden last year that I had to save and replant this year, these are our Dutch shallots. I really like these because when they finish growing, they pop over real nice and easy and make a very nice, fairly shelf-stable little bulb for you to save in your cabinet, your root cellar, wherever you want to keep it. And these guys propagate really nicely. So overall, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I found the instructions on a fella named Gardener Scott's YouTube channel. If you're into this kind of content, you probably already watch him. But I just followed his instructions and literally built it around my old Hügelkultur mound. So if you have a Hügelkultur mound that you built, in previous years, you end up with a huge amount of debris. It's going to be just a nightmare to move it, change it, or bring it to the dump, or whatever you feel like you need to do to get rid of it if it didn't work. So I might recommend building a concrete raised bed around it, like I've done. Other little thing I'll just show you as a quick bonus is over the weekend, I built myself, with just some spare junk I had laying around, fence posts, bird netting, and cinder blocks left over from the bed, this little enclosure to keep varmints out, so I can finally have a mint patch and a lemon balm patch around the base of my tree that we have in the front yard. And as just a little bonus, it lets me protect my little apple trees that I'm growing from seed here. I know they say you should grow them from rootstock, but I kind of love the idea of getting a random species, or a random variety, rather, of apples out of the deal. And so yeah, things are doing okay in here. Nothing has gotten in to get my mint. Nothing has gotten in to get my greens, my lettuce. In our area, it's super essential to protect your crops. So I hope, if you've watched this at this point, it's giving you some ideas to chew on. Another great benefit that comes to mind as we're looking at this is that because the birds cannot get into here, we have a ton of lizards locally, and they are basically on patrol for me. They eat all the bugs in the garden, so I've had very little pest problems in terms of bugs in this bed, because the lizards like to hang out in the hot cinder blocks. So, Gardener Scott recommends filling these guys with soil, so you can do a little herb garden for stuff you don't want to spread. I think that's a great idea. But for me, because I have probably 50 lizards living in this bed, not bothering anything except eating the bugs and staying safe, chilling out, I don't think I'm going to fill them in. I'm pretty happy to let the lizards do their jobs so I don't have to apply as much neem oil or diatomaceous earth in my garden. It's all organic, and if I have some lizards on the job, I think that's a fairly fair exchange between me and the lizards. So at any rate, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.